Here we go. 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 Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the last stream proceedings. Americans in great soccer after the season finale Sunday in the Premier League with James Eddy, long-time great Sir James Eddy. It's Jerell Jones, Sir Jerell's right here, and Sir Eddy. Well, we had some incredible drama right here, and now we will get the full sentiments overall of what went down on this Sunday overall. How are you doing, good sir? And I know you're doing a lot more than Bournemouth, Watford, and Aston Villa fans today.
Well, I think I think Villa fans were already kind of okay. I feel like Bournemouth fans, they were sitting on edge a little bit. And Watford fans, I felt like they were confident until the first 10 minutes of the game. And then they were like, oh, okay. But I'm all right. Everything pretty good. Interesting, entertaining. Sunday midday, so
well, you're all right because you're a Chelsea fan and you got full top four with overall. Bam, there you go, back in retaining the Champions League place where no matter what happens to Bayern Munich in that second leg, at the very least, you're still back in the Champions League next season with a young squad, and I know you feel all the way glad about that. But it's something where it's all about with these days and what makes truly the UEFA Big Five leagues and any prominent soccer or associated football league around the world so appreciated and so great is the drama that is surviving the drop, that is relegation away from the top league that you are in, and the serious real-life implications that it brings with that overall. And that was certainly the case once again today when the season was on the line in terms of survival, came down to the final day in this COVID-19 era, 352 days apparently after the season started originally and whatnot. And it was just something fascinating where Aston Villa was always favorite to get this whole thing after the results that they had over the week. Crucial victories that they obtained. And it was something where Watford and Bournemouth already had a lot to deal with because the key thing was that West Ham were safe. And that was something because it would have been fascinating if West Ham struggled down the stretch and still were mired with the other four. So they would have been like an elimination game or whatnot.
It would have been more interesting if West Ham had something to play for.
Yes.
I feel like the game had legs because I love the fact that all teams play at 11. So Villa can only know so much.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's great because if they did different games or, 2 time slots, Villa would know that Watford was down. So then that game, then they're really, really trying to play for the point. In saying that, though, I think Villa and West Ham both had a pretty good back and forth from what I was watching.
Oh, yeah. Well, I would say it was a lot of almost gentleman's agreement, I have to tell you. It was really, from watching the split screen of that game and then Manchester United and Leicester City was the main game that I had with that because Aston Villa, I feared that because I was like, David Moyes doing Dean Smith's sort of favor here, Aston Villa manager, and David Moyes, of course, the West Ham manager. And it just was you would have saw the intensity that you saw when West Ham played against Watford, when that led to Nigel Pearson getting fired and just the whole situation where like Watford, you might as well be down or whatnot. That intensity was just not there at all, and it was just evident throughout the whole thing. But still, it was that whole drama of Aston Villa not scoring. So it was still like building up, but it was still something where you still never felt that Aston Villa was not ever in real danger until what happened.
It was. I turned it off. I watched the first 10 minutes of that game, and then once Watford was down a goal, this seems to be what was interesting was Villa was so on their front foot. Once I saw Villa was starting to have possession a little bit and still get into the scoring third for them, and they just kind of lived there and were playing out of there, I was like, okay, West Ham is definitely like, we're safe. It doesn't matter if we move up. We're just kind of chilling just to get this game over with.
Yeah. It really was annoying me. But I will say that when Jack Grealish scored, I was yelling because I was broadcasting the game on Twitter Live overall, and I was doing that and making sure no DMCA at all. So bam, sound down. That's how you do it, people. All right. And when Jack Grealish scored his goal, and at first I thought it was just bad goalkeeping by Fabianski, who rarely does it. But it just was something where it still was like, it was still a great moment for them. They celebrated, and I thought it was like Rap City for Bournemouth, because Watford were basically down already. They got down 3-0, and even though David Luiz gave Danny Wells back the foul in the box, and they got Troy Deeney get a goal back, and Watford going down pride. It was really down to Bournemouth hoping that if they win against Everton, that West Ham could maybe just come back and get the victory. And then, so I'm thinking, all right, it's over. And then all of a sudden, I look up whatever, and I see a ball like literally deflect from Andre Yarmolenko, and it rainbows into the back of the net. And I was like, oh my gosh, because if you were an Aston Villa fan, they were all celebrating because they scored their goal at 80 minutes. So they're thinking that they're in the clear now.
They're good.
They're all good. And then for that to go down on a deflection and it just miraculously gets in, you're like, or whatever. What the hell's going now? And in fact, James, remember we talked about how we hope that they would be able to show the fans' faces of pain or whatnot, despite this whole thing. Well, they did that. The Premier League broadcast did that overall for Aston Villa fans. When they saw the West Ham goal going for Yarmolenko, the deflected goal, they were so devastated, slamming their hands, like looking in despair. I was like, damn, this content is just extraordinary. I mean,
I thought at that same time, I think Watford was also starting to come back a little bit as well. So that was like the magical moment. And then there were a couple of things that happened in the Watford game where Aubameyang was able to get back and get out on a really quick counter exchange, and I was like, oh, they're not going to have it. When you have, I don't know, there's something you can feel when the momentum and the magic is about to turn. And the fact that Watford needed 2 more goals to solidify it, I think that was also kind of disheartening as well. If they could have gotten a draw and it would have been fine, then it would have been okay. But I think the 2 goals made it too difficult. I think that was too big of a hill for them to climb, and I think they were kind of playing that way. I think if the Welbeck had a chance on a back heel that he tried to get in, and Martinez was in goal.
He got to get this back heel on. Yeah.
I mean, the cross wasn't great. It was a chance, and the goalie was playing towards the traditional side that if he tried to strike it with his right leg, he definitely was going to make the save. And the ball was a little behind him. So he just tried to backheel flick it on at an angle across the goal, going back to the far post. And the goalie, I don't know.
Right there, James gets going right to the frozen stream. He's still saying what he's saying as he gets to the frozen stream at the moment with that. Well, as he says what he says, or when he gets back connected or whatnot. Oh, there you go. You're back. It was a little jump.
Okay.
Yeah. So as you're saying.
What part did – so basically the goalkeeper was able to get across and make the save. on that chance. And once that chance happened, that was like their best chance coming down the end that they probably would, if they were able to make that goal, I think they probably would have been able to do enough. But Arsenal, the game was open. That's what made it so interesting and fun. It was like once Arsenal was up by the 3 and then the lead started closing, the gap started closing, Arsenal could have decided to park the bus, but they didn't, which was also what made it so interesting.
Why would they? That's not the Arsenal way in general, unless like they want to win their Champions League and it's like the 90th minute and they're up or whatnot. They're never gonna, even under Unai Emery, that's just not, the Arsenal way.
Well, it would have been a smart thing to do because you ain't got nothing to play for. So I think that's what made it so much fun to watch that game overall was that match was so open. It was so open. And they allowed the back and forth and the freedom to play. And of all the games that I watched, I would switch to Everton, Bournemouth for a little bit. And Everton also looked like they were kind of just going through the motions as well. Mm-hmm. When I tuned into that for like 5 to 8 minutes. Yes. But yeah, for the most part, I would say the game that had the most action that I was watching, because I didn't switch over to Chelsea Wolves or Manchester United. I didn't switch over to any of the top 4 matches, because as we discussed the other day on Friday, they pretty much went how I thought they were going to go down. Mm-hmm. So I just especially once there were early goals in those games. Oh, not early goals, but goals in those games. It was just like, all right, I'm not going to go to them anyways. But yeah, that's what it was. That game had the most action. That Arsenal-Watford game, you just didn't know. And I wasn't going to waste my time with Villa-West Ham. I just wasn't going to do it. But maybe if I had picture-in-picture, I was going to do it. But I was not going to waste my time. I saw the way they came out on NBC Sports Network, how they took the pitch and how they just were kind of like, all right, cool. Like, let's make sure no one gets injured. Mm-hmm. Send me my bottle of wine and my caviar later today.
Well, you say that, but you wanted to see the Watford fan misery. You wanted to see the Watford fans at home. You wanted to see the relegation pain of Watford overall. You wanted to see that overall.
No, I wanted to see the action. I think the Watford fan, overall, Watford had a very disappointing season. I think it's going to be very interesting to see them go down to the championship. Like I said, I'm very interested. Norwich, I feel like, might have been one of the first teams to come from the championship who just like, I don't know if Norwich won the playoff. I can't remember. They just were like.
They actually went up straight. They finished top 2.
So they finished top 2, right? Mm-hmm. And I felt like, even when I saw them play, I was like, mm-hmm. I just didn't think.
I mean, because early in the season, they got the win against Manchester City. Timo Pukki was doing his thing, scoring goals and whatnot. So they were really showing something to me. And, I thought they were showing at least offensive quality and, getting into that result against Manchester City was something. And then they just collapsed. The Norwich since the rest of the season. I mean, they gave us so many set-piece goals. I mean, I think they set a record for set-piece goals given up in the Premier League with just how bad they were at that. But, to see Bournemouth go down, along with Watford, they've become mainstays over the last 2 seasons again. And Watford has this great history. Elton John is certainly very devastated at the moment. But Bournemouth, they've become out of nowhere in this era. Been up and stayed up for like at least 5 seasons, like becoming established.
Which is so. I thought that was so unique that they've been up for so long as well. I felt like it's always surprising every season, and I'm like, oh, Bournemouth is still here.
And playing the
Bournemouth,
football,
you're still with us.
And playing the soccer that Eddie Howe, like a young English coach, so they've been trying to hype. To be at the next, like, one of the Big 6 clubs. So, it was the fact that they played good football, had Eddie Howe there, Yeah, it was a thing where they had become a regular fixture, and now, despite as good of a finish as can be, and the players relatively liking him, it's just going to be tough for Leicester with the continued future. Because I said Leicester. Oh my gosh, Leicester. I said no. It's going to be tough for Bournemouth to continue. Now we'll get to Leicester in terms of their Champions League future, which will not be a Champions League future until maybe 21, 22. They ain't
I was
have
gonna say
21.
that, but like I said, that was surprising to me.
Well, we'll get to that in a second. Because it was actually a really good match with a lot of drama, especially when I was like broadcasting it. It was a lot of drama for sure. I will say where, let's just say, if you were a Liverpool fan watching it, I'm gonna allude to my lovely friend and colleague Samara Barakat, who's a stern, very anti-United, very pro-Liverpool or whatnot. There was still that harbor of hope that Leicester would still pull it off or whatnot, and I'm gonna get to a second. To see Bournemouth go down is just something where Eddie Howe. I wonder how that's gonna go. He's still young, but all the top 6 clubs, their spots are filled up, and it's just gonna be it's gonna be hard. It's going to be hard for me to think how this will go down for Bournemouth, for him, and if they're gonna ever be back in the Premier League anytime soon, and it's going to be a lot to determine over the next month for them. And
yeah, I think the 3 teams going down, I don't know what Norwich is going to do. I think they'll be interesting, but I could also see them being a team similar to Swansea this season in Championship, who goes down and then it's mid-table and not even clawing back. I can see Watford, if they stayed the same that they are, I could see them doing what Wolves did, going down and then bouncing back up. It's similar to what you just said. I can see Bournemouth going down there and being down there for a while.
Yeah. And, the players that they'll lose, and we'll talk about this probably later in the week, because as always with these relegated sides, they will get their players poached or whatnot, even in this COVID-19 era. And that's something that will go down with Bournemouth now, in Bournemouth and Watford, because they have plenty of those players. With Aston Villa, it's something where even they, despite survival and whatnot, their captain, Jack Grealish, he could be going, he could be moving on. Saying to himself, this is what it is, where even though Aston Villa is the biggest club in Birmingham, England's second city, very globally in renown, I think that they are in a destination next season where they need a lot of improvement, or they will be heading back to the Championship, without a doubt.
I agree with that. I'm hoping that this scare allows them to reevaluate. And similar to what you were kind of alluding to, they do have some of the resources to be able to commit to certain things. I think what they should be able to do is try to use some of the loans, see what players they can get out in the market who can be loaned to them for a little bit. It's harder when you're a top flight club to do that. So I don't know. Like I was saying before, maybe going down might not have been the worst thing for them if they were going to do that.
Prince William. Don't say to Prince William, that's his side. Prince William's going to be devastated when he sees this or whatnot.
So I think that's the key thing, is what they'll do, what they can try to figure out how they're going to rebuild. I think that's the hard part for them. What are they going to do to get better? And similar to what we were talking about before we started, we know that the other clubs who are behind the cities in Liverpool are going to be working to go better. And I feel like Leicester, Wolves, who else finished in the top 8? I think a lot of the teams who finish outside of the top 4, Spurs, I think a lot of them are going to reload and really make another big push, because I feel like after those 2, between 2 and 10, I feel like the difference between the skill gap in the players aren't too different. It's a couple of, you know, swing matches that can make it go one way or another. That's the way I feel about it. So I feel like, especially when you're coming from the bottom of the table, from the championship, you have to be ready, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's not really many mid-table, like, let's go. Like, even West Ham, if you come in thinking you're hot stuff, West Ham can give you a good challenge on some matches as well. So I think, you know, the teams who are coming from the championship, you have to be conditioned and ready for that, or else you're going to find yourself in the relegation zone and just getting the Premier League gate and money and TV money for that 1 year.
That's real that you say that, man. And I think that's a good discussion overall, you know, in general, about when you get the drop, when you see the drop, because I mean, a lot of, you know, people may assume watching off the bat, like just starting to watch the Premier League, because I thought the individual would be like, oh, you know, they're in the drop, but they're better than the teams in the championship, you know, anything. And so they'll come back up. And then you don't factor in how their best players can get taken. I mean, their best players want to leave, whatever. Their manager could get fired if there were certain circumstances and whatnot. And that whole rebuilding of teams, and it's why you really do have, I mean, a great club like Leeds, a great established club. It took them forever to get back to the Premier League. Nottingham Forest is a great club, but they stuck mired in the championship for the longest. So a lot of teams, it's fascinating, man. When you see that team that goes from being relegated Premier League to almost getting relegated and then relegated in the championship.
Mm-hmm.
The perfect example, Bolton Wanderers. I mean, my goodness, this team was really legit overall. You know, this is when Jack Wilshere was like a real prospect for to be probably a future England star. This is when Daniel Sturridge was doing his thing, whatever, and staying healthy. And this is before that Stuart Holden came on the scene and was just shutting it down. So they were so viable, but you know, over the course of time, they just diminished greatly, got relegated, and now they got relegated. Now I think they're in League One.
Yeah.
So
it just kind of piled up on them. It's similar to what you just were saying. All their young talent got taken away. They had questionable. Their manager, I think, ended up leaving. What else happened to Bolton? Because I want to say they were one of the first sides that got relegated in back-to-back seasons, if it was that quickly. I can't remember if it's them or if it's another team, but I think they got relegated from Premier League and then got relegated in the championship.
Yeah. In fact, I will look that up on the making officials. I know that they went down immediately in their first two seasons. And it's something with Bolton. They were legitimately trying to break into that top six or whatever. And it just fell apart to the point where they haven't even come close to being on NBC on here in terms of when the NBC got the Premier League is when Bournemouth, when Bolton was already done and dusted or whatever from any assistance in being the Premier League. So that's what it is. So for those fans, literally of Norwich, well, you already knew you were resigned to your fate a few weeks ago. But for those fans, truly, of both Watford and Bournemouth, our hearts are out for you, because I can only imagine the devastation of today. And then you have to think about it this way. At least you didn't boo them in the stands or boo repeatedly, because that could have been a real difference or whatnot, and this could have been a thing that you don't want to remember in terms of it happening publicly. You know. So now towards the other half of the table, and how that Manchester United Leicester City game was really actually pretty good, despite only 2 goal scores for United scoring, and one of them really was just, you know, it was really when the match was decided, where the second goal, Jesse Lingard, he just scored a garbage time goal or whatever, just to add the injury to Leicester. But it was a game that was really good to me, where I thought it was like both teams did both a good job of showing their intent to attack, but then their defense was on point, making good blocks, key blocks and everything. De Gea and Schmeichel, especially De Gea late, was in the gap, So he was on like his P's and Q's in this one. And the key moment in the context changes, I don't know if you saw the full highlight of it, but again, the inspirational Mason Greenwood. This teenager, I'm telling you, this kid is just something else. What he did was he stripped down Hamza Chowdhury in the midfield, and stripped him in the midfield. And that led to then Bruno Fernandes find Anthony Martial, and then the pass that he did was perfectly weighted, and he got tackled, Martial. It's a debate of who got if they put the yellow card, I think they gave the yellow card to Johnny Evans. But it's a real debate. Who got that yellow card? Because both Johnny Evans and Wes Morgan, they tackled Anthony Martial at the same time. Unfortunately, they didn't get the ball. And they gave a yellow, I think.
I was saying, neither of them got the ball, it sounds like.
Neither of them did at all. And I'm sure the replay easily, but it's just something where circumstances. Well, actually, it probably could show the replay because still, but you know how to do, all right? So if it was MLS, it would be no problem. But Premier League, different story. Yeah. So United were in danger of that game, though, because, Leicester did have chances. Now, I will say, Maguire, probably his best game today is the United center back, and picked the right time to do it. But still, Lindelof, I question him. Leicester girls did have a half chance or whatnot in terms of they did have like a half chance in terms of scoring, in terms of being able to get full opportunities. Maybe not a clear where De Gea had to come up with an incredible save, and Vardy, he didn't get too many sniffs. But there were two times where one time Vardy had a sniff where Lindelof missed it, and Vardy just couldn't time the volley right. Where if he put it on goal, they would have been up 1-0 Leicester. And then when United went up 1-0, and they made Brendan Rodgers went on to Marvin Gray and Harvey Barnes. Again, it was a really good delivery in the box. I think it was either Justin the right back, or I think it was Yuri Tillemans actually. I've been a fan of Yuri Tillemans since he shut it down at 16 at Anderlecht. And he delivered a great ball that Lindelof and Smalling weren't able to, Lindelof and Maguire weren't able to clear. And it was a thing where Harvey Barnes, if he got it right or in time, Leicester's back in it tied 1-1. So still, United, as you said, they truly are. And this is how my friend Tamara got mad at me when I said, United are back. Not United are back. And she definitely being Liverpool staunch is like, don't you ever say that with that, or I block you. She did it jokingly. But that's how real it is, because they've been the best team since the restart. They got the most points since the restart. And Ole Gunnar Solskjaer said they were tired. And yet they have just continued to be consistent enough. And they have the lineup. They have the lineup, or at least the spine of the team. They got the spine of the team. Like, they got, at least the center backs, but you got Maguire. Then you got Pogba and Fernandes. Then you can do the spine of the team, whether Martial or Rashford in the middle here. You got the spine there. And then outside, even though I don't know if Luke Shaw's had some competition as a left back already from their young team Williams overall.
Mm-hmm.
It's still something where they have enough in the back where you can say already. And this is why they didn't bring back Chris Smalling. So I do believe that they are, even though Ole Gunnar Solskjaer or a few others didn't want to admit it or say it, but I do believe, and they need maybe a little more work, but I do believe that United can be legitimate title contenders against City and Liverpool next year if they play the way that they played in this period.
Yeah, I think the key thing that I think about with the Premier League is, realistically, it's a league, and the schedule plays out like a league, but you have to remember that it's a tournament at the end of the day. So similar to what I was saying about the relegation, it's a home and home, right? And the old rule of thumb is, if you are coming up and you want to stay up, you try to get a point when you're away and you try to win every home game.
Yes.
I think when you're one of those top, again, the reason we were talking earlier, I was saying the top two are so different from everyone else is because when everyone else plays the top two, you have to play your A team, right?
Yeah.
Whereas those teams might not have to necessarily play their A team. They can play their, A team, rest some of their A team players, and then if the game is starting to be in question, those guys can come in.
Mm-hmm.
And I think similarly, and that's why I say with United has enough young talent and established talent now at this point, because we got to stop calling Martial, Pogba. They're young, but they ain't young talent anymore, right? Like the Greenwoods of the world. But Maguire,
teenage shutting it down,
Right. So they're young, but they're not. So those are the veteran talent that's on that roster. And, if they played every game in the Premier League, it would be close. And the way I would think about it is United, here goes what I would say. In order for you to be competitive with those top two, you would need to be able to split against the big six. Split against those two, at least. You need to at least split against those two. And against the lower half of the big six, you need to win two of those games. And United is a team that's set to do. And clearly, and what I'm saying is, and win, because you're better than everyone else, you win the rest of the games. But basically, anyone who's mid-table, you need to win at least two of those games and maybe split a few here and there. But with the big two, with City and Liverpool, you definitely need to be able to split. And United, to me, is the only team that can do that while performing in the FA Cup, while performing in the Champions League. So that's the way I kind of feel about United. They're the team that's built to be able to do that. But, you'll have your Evertons of the world who are striving to be, 8.
Well, they will take 8 now because they finished 12th, and Carlo Ancelotti, he just isn't going to be about that at all. And he certainly, especially when Jordan Pickford continues to make really bad errors. I mean, we've seen some goalkeepers really collapse this season Premier League. I mean, David De Gea collapsed, and Kepa. I mean, Frank Lampard, with the complete dropping him entirely, from the roster. And this is the quote-unquote the most, well, I mean, in terms of, I said oldest, so I mean, definitely not. But the most expensive goalkeeper ever in a transfer is Kepa. And it's just like how he was so good at Bilbao and has really lost it a bit at United. It's just like, wow.
Chelsea?
Oh, excuse me, Lord. Chelsea. My gosh, people had a late night in terms of things and whatnot. That's how real we are on this podcast and whatnot, everybody. That's how real we are on this podcast. Well, I mean,
don't put Kepa on your team.
well, United, I will say, De Gea has looked like Kepa lately as well, too. I mean, he was worse than Kepa. Oh, my goodness. He was worse than Kepa last Sunday. So, he really was. So, man, Spain at the moment.
Kepa didn't get the start. So
it's so bad. I saw this crazy stat, James, from Twitter. With Kepa, and it was a legitimate stat. Kepa has conceded. I can't believe I read this. He has conceded 8% of Chelsea's goals in the entire Premier League history. It's real. Yes, it's a real stat. It is not a fake joke or whatever. He has conceded 8%. I was like, whoa. Now, a lot of this or whatever, unfortunately, it's the Premier League history, not that many years and whatnot, and that's what's true. And then you also have the fact that a lot of great Chelsea teams from the Mourinho era on really was, in that era in terms of Peter Cech being just amazing.
Defensively sound.
Exactly.
And that's what I was, when I saw that today, that Kepa's not starting, what I was thinking was, maybe they're more defensively. Maybe Caballero is able to say things to get the defense more prepared, better prepared than Kepa is. I think maybe he's able to work with the back line a little bit more. I think Kepa might be good if you're trying to be more explosive, and that's not what Chelsea needed with these last two
They
matches.
They don't.
They needed someone who can make sure that they're not going to concede stupid goals and be a little consistent. And
Yeah,
so I don't see it as him possibly getting sold. I just see it as he needs maturing in that sense.
It's shocking though, because yes, it was ridiculous that he was made the most expensive goalkeeper ever. It was ridiculous, and but he really was still pretty. He was really just about to be the next truly young goalkeeper to really put himself in that conversation, and it has just fallen apart for him. I mean, it just has, and it's something that I just couldn't see forthcoming. Like watching him at Bilbao and how he rose there, I couldn't see that forthcoming. I could have seen it a little bit with Loris Karius when he went to, when he left Mainz for Liverpool, where I said he was a tremendous shot stopper, but when it came to crosses, it was a little bit odd. It was not that great, and that came to fruition, and then he really lost his confidence at Anfield. But Kepa, he really didn't have, to me, any significant holes in his game. That's why he was legit. He earned that sort of reputation in terms of being able to lift up the platform overall in terms of that. So I think that it just truly is something that they have to really address, over the summer, because to get dropped in the biggest game of the season, like that is not really good for, his confidence.
His confidence. But I think if Frank sells it with the rationale of you don't have the defensive line that's going to allow you to do.
Yes, that's key.
Execute your skill set, right? Yeah. If he's able to say we had to use Willie to ensure that we keep fourth place and that we stay in the FA Cup, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe against Arsenal, depending on how the game plays or what they think.
Mm-hmm.
In the FA Cup, depending on how Champions League goes, who knows? Maybe whatever style they want to come out with.
Bayern Munich comeback? You're preaching that Bayern Munich comeback? 3-0 down. Shout out Fonzo Davies.
You know how I feel about Bayern Munich, but even then, I don't think my team is going to be able to do it because that's a God squad. They are a FIFA. They're a FIFA club. When I say FIFA, I'm talking about the video game. They are a FIFA video game club. Okay? They literally pick whoever they want in the Bundesliga and say, oh, you're the top goal scorer. Besides on Leipzig. I was going to say, for some reason, Leipzig's like, nah, we don't roll that way. But everybody else, Hoffenheim, Dortmund, Wolfsburg, any of their top scorers, if Bayern Munich wants them, it's like, here you go. Here they are on a silver platter. We don't even charge you huge transfer fees. Mm-hmm. It's like, how does this continue to happen? Like, some way, somehow, what? They're going to get Marco Reus. It's going to happen, and we're going to be like,
well,
and he's going to,
I would say Marco.
He's going to come, not only that, he's going to come off the bench, and this is the way it's going to happen. It's going to be the 5th game of the season. It's going to be a big move, right? Mm-hmm. When it happens. I'm just saying this facetiously. There's no real context.
That would be funny though. Keep going.
So he's gonna come. They're gonna get him during the transfer window. He's gonna come, and then people are gonna forget that he's on the team. And then the 5th game of the season, he's just gonna come on and have a hat trick. And people are gonna be like, "Oh, we forgot that you had him. You forgot that you had Marco Reus. Oh, okay. We forgot that you had him." Because that's the way they roll. Whoever is about to beat them, if you are in 2nd place, watch your back. Like I said, the only team that I've seen who's been able to still do this is Leipzig. They're the only team I've seen who's not sold their best player to Bayern.
That's true. And then the Red Bull and the pride of the Red Bull brand. But Leipzig did sell their best player to your squad. And that's the thing that I wanted to ask you real quick before we go to, say with Leicester and everything else that we want to say Wolves or whatnot. Do you feel when the new season starts in September? Because it's pretty funny that they're gonna have their break. Well, some teams will have a break, others will do a Champions League, so go figure. Who do you believe will be the starting forward come match day 1 of the 2021 Premier League season for Chelsea Blue? Do you think it'll be Tammy Abraham? Do you think it'll be Olivier Giroud? Or do you think it will be Timo Werner, who will still try to be adjusting to his new club?
I think it's going to be Timmy.
All right, okay.
I think Tammy Abraham is who they're grooming. I think they have a lot of trust in Timmy. Short of him having an atrocious summer or having just an absolutely poor performance, I think that's who they're grooming.
Mm-hmm.
Similar to what I was saying, I think Chelsea's in a sweet spot right now where it's okay, similar to what I was talking about with the Caballero Kepa situation, right? It's Tammy, you understand, you're the future, but right now we need that dub, right? We need a dub, and they have a clear person who they can have come out and who's going to be consistent. The way I would think about it in my mind is like this, right? Mm-hmm. Tammy Abraham is I'm going to go to another analogy, right? Mm-hmm. Tammy Abraham is the consistent young hitter who needs his power to develop. Mm-hmm. Olivier Giroud is the once powerful power hitter, but now is a pinch hitter who can come up, and when he's a pinch, he's 7 for 10 with 4 home runs as a pinch hitter, right?
You want to put that baseball reference in there, and we're gonna get on that Frank Lampard one because you told me that Frank Lampard had a little bit of baseball. That's why I need to get him on this thing, and y'all can talk that baseball. All right, sir.
So that to me, that's what it is. I think Tammy's the future. Olivier Giroud is the person, and I think Werner is someone who they want to use to have that 2 pairing system that they can kind of play with. Ideally, I think Frank wants to have those 2 with Pulisic in that center, and that's how they want to move, but they can't do it because Tammy needs to be able to play by himself.
He does, but I think, but this is why it's going to be interesting with Timo Werner now, all right? Because I think, I got to tell you, I like Tammy Abraham a lot, and I feel like he was rude, but I think Timo Werner may take that role because he's able to drop back. I mean, yes, he's always known for his pace, but he's able to be a lead forward. He's able to be all action, and so he doesn't have to be just on the right. And I just think that he's finishing it definitely for sure. Even though he's not scoring 30 goals like Lewandowski and whatnot, but his finishing for sure is a little better than Tammy's. And yes, he's not anywhere near as big as Tammy physically, but I just feel like he still is that all-around enough forward where he's just not that forward that's just all about scoring goals and his finishing. He has enough versatility towards his game. And I just think that the money that they paid for him, and Frank, he's a guy that, even though he was encouraged to see Tammy do his thing, he's saying to himself, well, I still went after Werner. I still feel that I want to still compete next season with United, with City and Liverpool. I just think that it's going to be Timo that's going to get that, or at least the first dibs on it. It'll be interesting. It'll be interesting because you have to have on the team offensively for them. You have to have Pulisic for sure. I mean, the guy was just consistently, whether you are thinking that we're American homers or not, clearly, if you watch the darn games, everyone objectively on Twitter says that, no, Pulisic is seriously, really, real deal. And he's done it. He's looked like a taller Eden Hazard. And credit to Mahershi's son, he really, really has. And he was influential throughout the game today, but especially on that second goal, that his dribble in the midfield got it to Mount, and then Mount got it to Giroud, and he finished it off. You have to have him on the field, and I feel like you still have to have him on the left. And so otherwise, then Mason Mount today out of nowhere, despite his inconsistencies and whatnot. He showed his quality, and it's something where Lampard would maybe be tempted to play him in like that little dime or whatever with the front four there.
Mm-hmm.
Now it comes on the right side where Willian is back, and it's just going to be fascinating to see how they go because it's Hudson and Doyle going to move over there and do that on a consistent basis. Oh, and they've got Hakeem Ziyech, like from Ajax.
Mm-hmm.
So he's definitely going to certainly be at the front of that or whatever overall. So both.
Well, what I also think, but the names that you're listing off, I think you can create the system. And now what you have to do, similar to what we're talking about with the talent building, is you figure out who that team A is. Then team B also needs to be consistent as well. So you kind of need two groups of people who are going to be consistent. So honestly, like that's where my question is who's going to pick up the system first? Is it going to be Timo or is it going to be Tammy? Tammy has the advantage right now because Tammy's in the system right now. So it's like, that's my thing. And then are we seeing them, are both of them on team A?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right? And then Giroud comes in and fills in for whomever needs to when they're facing in the Champions League group stage.
Or if they need a goal,
right.
So like they're just going route one, you're tall, Olivier, even though you still look like a handsome man and everything. That's the thing. Like, well, you make a good point because Timo can play on the left, but then Pulisic necessarily doesn't like playing in the middle, but you have to have him on the field. And then to me, Ziyech for sure is going to start for the price that they pay him out. Get his left foot, so he's definitely He's definitely on the right side. So that's why I wonder what's going on with Hudson Odoi, now. So they're in terms of the front, they're stacked or whatnot. Your side, it's just now at the back, whatever. Is Kurt Zuma gonna be the guy, whatever? And so because he has that potential, whatever, he's gonna be like the leader. Because it can't be Rudiger, and it can't be.
Fly kick is what kung fu kick is. What I like to call. Every time I see Rudiger, anything you see him, he's jumping and flying. Like, why is he like up in the air? Like, why are you fly kicking? Always just jumping and fly kicking. What are we doing?
Well,
good old fly kick.
I don't know how. I mean, he's a great fourth center back to have, but for an elite club, they just keep on seeing his physical attributes, and God bless him. Being a black German.
He was so much more consistent. He's so good as a number 2 center back. You think it's a number 2? Yeah. Oh yeah.
Wait. When you mean by number 2,
I'm talking about when you got with 4 backs.
Okay, so you mean backup?
Yes.
Oh yes, perfect. Yes, backup for sure, definitely. But it's just like, to me, for them, because they spent, and this is my still concern about Lampard.
Yeah, I'm not talking about number 2 positional wise.
Yeah.
He's a number 3. If we're talking about positionally, he's a number 3.
I put him down to 4.5, honestly, for an elite club. I give him 4.5. I was like, I mean 4.5.
Well, he can't go forward.
Well, yeah, well, and that too as well. Well, unless he goes to Sheffield United and overlapping center backs, then that can go down.
I was gonna say, don't get me started. I love Sheffield's game. It's so.
I love it. Chris Wilder, God bless Chris Wilder. God bless him. This is the thing that still concerns me with Chelsea overall. Again, is the fact that the signings that they've made so far, prioritized, have still been on the offensive end. And I know it's hard to get a good center back nowadays and everything like that. And when you have Virgil van Dijk be a great transfer, not only transfer center back is going to be Virgil van Dijk, unless you get like a young French center back that's doing his thing. But I just feel that that's still my reservation. So, but Lampard is third, and he's got that still in him, like to really be like, all right, I'm gonna demand better, defensively, or at least that energy overall. And speaking of like energy overall from him, this baseball energy that he has, Like, what's the quote from baseball that he used that you said that he was using? Oh, you forgot? I forgot. Like, I didn't even know he actually didn't even use had made baseball references, but he considering that he played in Yankee Stadium. You forget that. It's like it's forgotten already that he played in Yankee Stadium.
He did.
You know, well, let me ask you about this, sir, because we get this has already been a special episode overall. You know, we talked about the other day with Jordan Henderson, how ridiculous that was for him.
Oh boy! Did Kevin De Bruyne make that decision look foolish today? Did he just stamp away like, oh, can he do any of the things that I did today? Can he do any of them? Oh, okay. He gets back defensively. Great job, England.
It has a lot of energy. You know, this is from someone that's always liked Jordan Henderson since the Sutherland days, but come on now. Come on. This is when inaccurate things are given to people or whatnot. Speaking of City, you know, they support Norwich. Just to go out the way that they did, but Daniel Faulkner was like, hey, it is what it is. So
they had 27 losses on the season, Andrew. 27. That's as much. They played 38 matches.
Yeah, I mean,
you lost 27 of them joints.
When you lose more than
they played 38 matches.
When you lose more than 2/3, you're fixtureless. And that's the thing, though. They don't saw that, but they still got 20 points in the season, James. They weren't one of the worst.
Well, that's what made it so interesting to me. I felt like this was a high number. 31.
Yeah.
That was a high number for what it typically is. Mm-hmm. Usually, sometimes I remember what was it? A couple years, was it Leicester's year that they won it? It was 27.
Oh, was it 27?
There was a year where it was like 27. It was like 27 or 28. Yeah, but that was also a season where like the Big Six, all of the Big Six were really good that year. So it was just, I think it was like the first year that City was really, really good. I can't remember what year. But it was.
You talking Leicester's title season or Leicester's?
It might not have been Leicester's title season. It might have been before. Right now, my Premier League, it's all merging. But it was fairly, it was in the 2010s.
Well,
the magical number 27.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you right now, there was one season, because people forget Aston Villa, who survived today, 4 seasons ago, Aston Villa, they only had 17 points, and they did lose.
Yes, they did.
They lost 27 games, all right? So let's go. In fact, I'm gonna use it for the screen for my people here so we can go all the way right now and share this thing. So now, let's go to last season, 2018-19. Huddersfield. Oh, Lord, Huddersfield.
All right, hold on.
All you
So, again, the number last year, Cardiff, who was a pretty good team, right?
They were, yeah. Yeah, I will give you that. Yes, they were.
34. That's a tough number. That talks a lot about balance. 34 is a tough number.
10 wins, but they say always 38. If you have more than 38 points,
38 is the sweet spot. 38 is the sweet spot.
You know, you're literally almost having a point a game or whatnot. You know, so yeah, like you have a situation where you can be like, you know, 10 wins and everything. That's great.
Yeah, Huddersfield. What happened to them?
Oh, well, they were just trash. They were just I mean, that's why I get at all them Huddersfield fans that were like, oh, Danny Williams, like he's certainly better than Weston McKennie because he's on the Oscar or whatever. You don't know anything American or whatnot. And James, I will show you the great tweets and whatnot and show these awesome people that watched it because they were really arrogant, Huddersfield, from them being Huddersfield. Yeah, you are Huddersfield. Us Americans been watching the Premier League or whatever. We got better players on the other teams. Why would our better players even go to your club? Come on, what the hell's wrong with you people? So like they were just like, ugh, the Huddersfield, ugh. They were just David Wagner, ugh, you know, and that's why Weston McKennie's like, ugh, right now. Now West Brom Stoke, that was a good season 2 years ago. like really high. It was really, really high. Only 19, losses, 19 defeats. Now 21 for Swansea, but they had the win. That was really crucial to them, but then it was crucial to them to the point they still got relegated. So that's a loss. So it's navigating, just not losing. Can you just get a point, or can you get 3? That's
right.
the key. If you're able to mitigate,
You have to get results. The key to being able to stay is results. If you can get results, you're good.
Yeah. I mean, I forgot QPR in terms of their season, really at least mustered 8 wins. There was a lot of losses, but they mustered 8 wins. And I think that's significant because, 3 points is 3 points overall. And they were able to get 30. So that's pretty admirable. But right back to Norwich, you got something where the negative goal, I mean, Lord, it's not only just the defeats, it's the goal difference. Look at the goal difference right here.
The goal difference is huge, 49.
It is truly
negative 49.
It is wider than the American heartland because, I mean, man, this is real. I mean, that's when And they gave up 75 goals. Goodness gracious. I think that's the most ever recorded.
They were bad, but they weren't that bad.
Yeah. Well, they weren't. At the beginning of the season, they really had the offense going and stuff. And it was just like, wow, But City, the scroll up to the top, and this shows you how it's all about winning the certain things winning the certain matches and everything, all right? City, if you just base it on goal difference, you would have thought they had 99 points and Liverpool had 81.
But the thing is, when City faces their bad clubs, they stomp the bad club. They beat people 5-1.
Including today, 5-0. They were trying to get Raheem Sterling was probably close to the golden boot or whatnot. But man, it's just fascinating how these things can show different things, with the exception of your points are the things that matter. And it is something that's incredible because City, I mean, goodness gracious, I mean they were, no other team even got 90 goals. And this is why I say next season, when the season starts, and we'll have plenty of time to talk about it. Once again, Liverpool, I don't think that they will win the title next season if Roberto Firmino is still their lead forward.
Oh my gosh, there you go with this again.
I think, my Liverpool girl, Tammy, tomorrow would certainly be upset or whatever about it, but I just had to decide what it is. I just think that this was a perfect season overall, but I just think it's going to happen. I think it's going to happen in terms of feeling that. I just can't comprehend it. I can't comprehend it. I just can't comprehend it.
I think the key thing with those two teams is the result that they have against each other. That's the most important part. It'll be news if you hear that they're down in any of their games.
Mm-hmm.
If either of them lose a result to a team they shouldn't lose a result to, which is everyone else besides Liverpool, Man City, or the Liverpool, depending on who you root for, besides each other, they should get results against everyone. And realistically, that's what it breaks down to, right? Liverpool, if Man City draws with Chelsea, Liverpool's in the driver's seat because they might have beaten Chelsea and now have Chelsea at a later date.
Yes.
That's what it's going to come down to. So that's why for me, your Bobby Firmino take, I don't think his impact is that big enough that it's like splitting hairs. Well, he's the 25 home run hitter on a team with guys who hit 40, 35 home runs.
Well, I think it's more the better analogy is that he's on a team with great pitching this season, and they didn't need the home runs provided or whatnot because the pitching was so tremendous because
I don't think that's the enough. I think
wait, you don't think so with that?
I think the other two score the other two are capable of scoring so much and so well that he's not the crucial point to them losing because they can't. It's not like they can't score because of anyone else. That's what I'm saying. His role to me is not as important because they have Mane and Salah who are capable of being able to create. So I don't think he'll be a sole reason. I think it will be the war of attrition. It'll be how the form United comes out in. It'll be the form Chelsea comes out in.
United is coming.
And it'll be the form Spurs comes in with their coming back from injuries, and can they stay healthy? Because honestly, they should have been in the top 4 for the past 3 seasons, but they always get somebody who gets injured in some random game.
True, but I say Spurs, they still have a cheap chairman, Daniel Levy, and he's still cheap. He's still very frugal, and I see where they could slip off, especially when you don't really refresh your squad. And if I'm Liverpool, as I said to you earlier with this, because I still feel Firmino. I just feel that again, if it was Karim Benzema is a better version of Firmino. He gives you all Firmino gives you, but he also gives you goals. Jerell Mobley, feel that he certainly is whatever, at least in terms of giving you goals, and he can tend to build up. And I gotta tell you, say if they would be wise, even though it seemed like he had harmony with Jose Mourinho towards the end of the season. But I have to say that they should think about pursuing Harry Kane. If they pursue Harry Kane, it gotta have been
Liverpool.
Yeah, why not? They should. They're Liverpool, James. It's like if they're Real Madrid or Barcelona, they're Liverpool. They're huge. They're the biggest of the big.
They don't need Harry Kane.
I think the reason why I say that is because they had a lot of 1-0 wins this season, or like 1-goal wins. They could have really drew a lot of these games. Now, they were mentally tough, and they really held on to leads so well. But, again, the goal difference is not that sad. They did only score, like it's nothing to write home about, 85 goals this year compared to City's that started 102.
Right. But we just discussed how City, when they're up on you.
The bad clubs. That's true. But
they stomp the bad clubs. There's so many matches we can go to where City wins 6-1, 6-2. What they do, and that's what has made City City, is they've been relentless on their climb up. Whenever they're in front, and that's with this Pep system. It's once we get ahead and you are pressing, that's when it's 10 times worse. That's the style that they play. Whereas Liverpool is a little bit more, there is some nuance. There is a little bit more working in technical work. And I'm not saying that Man City is not technical at all. What I'm saying is their technical style allows them to be more free and open. Mm-hmm. And Liverpool is still free, but they're not as open because technically they know that they have to pull out. They might have to pull out. This is going to be a 2-0 game. This is going to be a 1-0 game. That's their style. Or a 3-1. My key thing for Liverpool is when they need to find a goal, they get it.
They do. But I think for me, the Atletico Madrid tie in the Champions League highlighted that, because that's a tie that should have never lost, despite Atletico Madrid always still being solid. And I felt Firmino gave away like a few chances in that one. And I
thought in that match, Salah was insignificant, to be quite honest.
Oh yeah, him too. I would say that as well too.
So to me, that's what I mean. To me, they have 3 people where when they don't find the goal, it's spread across those 3. I'm not gonna point at one. I'm gonna point at all 3 of them. I think there's moments where Salah, especially when he's getting physically outmatched, I get frustrated with him because they'll have a really good opportunity and I'll see him drop. And I'm like, dude, I call it, he does the Sterling, right? Or what's the other guy, the Sturridge. Like they used to, whenever they would get in maybe like 5 to 7 times, and then on one of them, it was guaranteed. If they were getting pushed off the ball, let's say instead of getting in 7 to 10 times, they got in 3 to 5 times. On 2 of those times, they would fall. And I'm like, you're not going to win a penalty in that same way. Like, we understand you're fast. We understand you're good, but you've already been getting physically outmatched this entire match. So what is going to make this different? It's going to be different now because you have the ball and it's in a goal-scoring opportunity. What makes it different? So that gets me frustrated. And I think in that Atletico match, there was a handful of times where that happened. I would say once or twice, you know. And then there's other times where they did a very good job of not keeping him engaged. Mane is a little bit more engaged because he drops back into the midfield a little bit more and helps out. And I think Firmino doesn't depend on the runs as much as Salah does. So I feel like and honestly, the way Klopp handled that loss, I think he handled it well. He was like, it's not necessarily all on the boys, it's on the tactics, and we'll be better and do things differently. And I think it was notable that they didn't go out and change the team. I think he understood, like, okay, you know, and I think that's the way he wants the team to be, is across. If they don't have a goal-scoring opportunity, it doesn't fall on one of the 3. It's spread across the entire 3 and maybe somebody in the midfield.
Bobby Firmino needs to send you a big check and come on this whole live stream for that defense overall, because you know, he can do all that, and then he can also bring in goals or whatnot. And I feel he needs to really, really do that to me to have Liverpool not only hold off Man City, but I think truly Manchester United, especially if they either get Jadon Sancho or now they're rumored to actually get Kingsley Coman or whatnot as a replacement over, because it seems like Bayern just want to let Kingsley Coman go and maybe prioritize Alphonso Davies moving back to his natural position with Leroy Sané, and then use Serge Gnabry and another player and whatnot. So they may go down that route. They may go that route. But we'll talk about that, you know, a little later on and whatnot. I want to wrap up with this, good sir, because now with the end of the quote-unquote project restart, well, at least mostly of it, because we still have the dramatic championship playoffs of Wembley, and then the FA Cup final with Arsenal and Chelsea, where I will try to bring my good Arsenal friend, of many, or whatever, whether it's Jonathan Priestler or maybe another one, my man Wise or whatever, on here to talk the Arsenal perspective of if they're going to win the FA Cup versus the Chelsea perspective, which is you, good sir, overall, if they're going to win the FA Cup overall. This restart, because it's interesting that I said it, because I saw this article out this morning on the J League. You know, the J League, for people that don't know, is Japanese top flight, and it's in having its wonderful thing of establishing itself globally in its own unique Japanese way. But unfortunately, this is not unique to Japanese way, but anyway, but could be unique to just making sure people don't get sick way. And it was what happened earlier today when this J League match between the Goa campus was called off or whatnot because it was like tested for positive in terms of a person. So, and this is the league's first match cancellation since it resumed in June following its 4-month suspension. So, you know, with all that being said, and I guess also they haven't really used still any fans over there. They said the J League started its virus hit season on June 27th, with the second and third divisions kicking off behind closed doors. Now, I think actually they did use fans, what I remember. Yeah, they did. The league began accepting a limited number of fans on July 10th in accordance with government guidelines. So this is going to be interesting and whatnot, where first I can ask you real quick before we roll out, what's been your thoughts overall on how they've handled Project Restart? I just can't stand the darn name. I'd rather go with NBA. The NBA got it kind of right, NBA Restart, but this whole project.
I don't call it Project Restart. I don't call it. They keep trying to make. What gets me mad is they keep putting branding on it, but then they don't follow through with any of the branding. Like I was saying, if we're going to call it Project Restart, then let us have a cool experience where we're hearing game sounds and we're hearing. I got so mad when I was watching a baseball telecast and Fox used virtual fans from the MLB The Show franchise to try to fill Wrigley Field, excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
it's so stupid. If we're going to, like my sister was saying yesterday when we were talking offline, she's like, the NBA is really understanding how to capitalize on the branding of this whole restart and COVID-19 experience. They're the only league out of all, and that's what makes it crazy to me. Well, not crazy, but makes it interesting to me is that even for the international leagues, they're not wanting to do anything like that. It was so refreshing to watch that Watford game without crowd noise. But to go into what you were saying, continue with this whole project, with the restarting of sports.
Yeah, I mean,
resuming of sports is the way I like to handle it.
As I said overall with how Leg Un has handled it well, I think they got lucky. Yes, it's been great, like that they were able to get through the season, and then no one else was able. Any team of note tested positive for coronavirus, but then just because it's teetered off here, I mean, it's teetered off there, and compared to our mess in the States, it's still around there a little bit. And I just feel that for me, I would not have to continue the season. I would not have to continue the season at all. And we just said, we'll do whatever, and then we'll just restart this back in our NBA year or whatever. Because,
well, from a business perspective, we're going off of soccer right now.
Oh yeah. I mean, we got to. I mean, you saw it with the cardboard cutoffs or whatnot at Dodger Stadium. And all the fans, I mean, it was way OD, but it was like.
I think from a business perspective, this is where the NBA got right. I personally, from March, was saying they should have put a pause, done what colleges had done, what we had to do, which was put a pause on the season for a couple of weeks, bubble everything up, and just grind away to the end.
Yeah. Yeah.
To me, that would have been the better solution than stopping and then sitting and waiting. I think you prohibit fans. I think the reaction to the Rudy Gobert positive test is what really sparked everyone to kind of, because at that point, baseball was the only sport in town that hadn't started. I think both hockey and the NBA should have bubbled themselves as soon as they heard about it, and the goal would be to complete the season. And the reason I said that is because now they're doing the restart. They're starting everything 3 years late, which is now pushing everything back. I think the NBA, from their perspective, is doing a better job of saying, and the reason, and who knows, maybe they did have the foresight to understand that, but the reason they've been pushing back so long is because they are going to postpone the 2020-21 season. And then what they're going to do by postponing that season is it's going to give them more time to possibly have fans in seats, because they're hoping that vaccination is created, or it dies down and they'll be able to have people, so that begins to recoup the revenue loss. But yeah, that was my thing. If you really were trying to get it done, what you do is you shrink the amount of rest days. That you do essentially what they're doing now, but you do it in April.
I mean, in terms about the soccer, the end of the season in soccer, that's what you're referring to in terms of the end.
No, I was talking about the NBA.
Oh,
in soccer. Soccer, yeah, soccer. I would have just cut the season short.
Well, that's why the Bundesliga, again, they were able to structurally be able to do this right, because of just having 18 teams and 20 teams. And I just think that they got lucky, honestly, to be frank with you, James, because, I'm just keeping it for people that's watching this. You know that I'm truly a progressive political person. And the Tory government, Boris Johnson, who's a fan of our fool over here, but he secretly doesn't want the fools to win re-election or not, because they know we don't need more foolishness or whatever to basically blow up even further. So, they still did a poor job by having their public health system, whatever, because they wanted to have their health system like our health system. And I just think that when Liverpool was celebrating when the players were celebrating from a distance their title when they clinched, thanks to Chelsea overall, shout out Christian Pulisic, but that it was something where you had people in the streets busy all out and just spreading COVID or whatever, they're celebrating because, Liverpool finally won their Premier League title, let's all be over it. And then they sort of did that a little more, but with more mass knowledge, literally the other night when they hoisted the trophy. So I just think that there's a lot of things that they got thankfully away with, where none of any other player of note got sick. But it was a thing that was still kind of awkward and a thing that we just I just feel that when we watch these things or whatnot, that it's a thing where the crowd noise or the fake TV crowd noise is a thing of like, why would you even need this? Why would you do it? And I think that, yes, we're glad that we saw the end of the season. I was glad to see this. I mean, I was really glad to watch some of these games where I just didn't say, this is a distraction, like how I view like even half the NBA coming back or whatnot, because we haven't handled this disease well enough here or whatever, especially in that state, as decently as they could have over there, or taken it seriously like they did in Italy for lockdown. So yeah, I just think that they just got lucky, and I mean, hopefully they'll continue to get lucky and it doesn't spark back over there and we won't have no relapse. But it's something where I can't say definitively like if that's gonna happen again or whatnot. How this disease is that crazy. But good sir, on that note, all I can say is that for those Il Calcio fans, all we can say is that Juve's probably gonna clinch the title. So it's been a great job, Atalanta and Inter. It's been tremendous, and also Lazio. It's been amazing.
It was fun while it lasted. That's what I'll say about that.
Yeah, well, we'll talk about that on the next episode when we will. And also, there's a few other things that I will talk to James about, where it will be some fascinating topics that truly, truly represents the brand that we are building here. And Americans didn't create soccer. So for this Sir James Eddy chilling right now on his well-deserved couch and whatnot, I and Andrew Jerell Jones, thank you once again. Thank you once again. Thank you once again for getting on your watch overall. Thank you once again. And here we go. And we start to roll out. Catch you on the next kick. We'll figure out a full tagline. All in is beat, not shaking with clutch and press the situation.